You really don't have a motivation problem.
Yeah.
You actually have an engineering problem.
That is, well, that's a pretty bold claim to start us off with.
Right. But today, we are going to completely dismantle the myth of willpower. I mean, think about it for a second.
Mhm.
Have you ever had a brilliant idea or, a crystal clear vision or a beautifully designed goal that just sat there?
Oh, absolutely.
You wrote it down in a journal, right? You felt that massive rush of inspiration, like you could practically see the finish line. And then absolutely nothing happened.
Nothing at all.
Yeah, the vision just sat on the page, never actually becoming a reality. And if you are nodding your head right now listening to this, let me assure you, you are definitely not alone.
No, not at all. I mean, it is a profoundly universal experience. And frankly, it's kind of the fundamental tragedy of human potential.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
We are, we're a species of incredible dreamers. We can imagine complex futures and conceptualize entirely new ways of living.
Right.
We draw up these magnificent blueprints for who we want to become. But we are often terrible architects of our own day-to-day reality. We build these castles in the sky, but we completely lack the scaffolding to actually reach them.
To reach them, exactly. And that gap between the sky and the ground, that is our entire mission for today's deep dive.
It's a big mission.
It is. We're exploring this really fascinating section of our source material on the human operating system. Specifically, we're going deep into part 4, which is called the execution system.
Yeah, this part is crucial.
The core premise here is just a massive wake-up call for anyone who, like me, loves to plan, but sometimes struggles to actually do the thing. Vision inspires us, yes. Purpose gives us our direction. But the framework suggests that only execution bridges that terrifying gap between possibility and reality.
Because that gap is exactly where most dreams go to die. I mean, up until this point in the material, the focus has really been on the blueprint, right?
Right, the strategy and the roadmap.
Exactly. The philosophical understanding of identity and desire.
Right.
But a blueprint doesn't build a house. You can have the most beautiful architectural drawings in the world. You can have approved permits, full financing. But until someone actually picks up a hammer...
Somebody's got to swing the hammer.
Right, until they start laying bricks, you just have a very expensive piece of paper. So this section is the moment construction begins.
Yeah.
It's not about figuring out what you want anymore. This is the operating system for how you actually get it.
Okay, so the permits are approved, the financing is there, now we have to pour the concrete. And what I find so compelling here is how it completely flicks the script on how we typically view getting things done.
How so?
Well, we usually blame ourselves, right? Like, oh, I just didn't want it badly enough, or I lack discipline. But this material argues that relying on willpower or, isolated moments of inspiration, that's a structural failure.
It really is. We have this highly romanticized notion of success in our culture. We think it's born from a sudden lightning strike of genius.
Yeah, or like a cinematic montage with a great soundtrack where someone is sweating it out at 4 a.m.
Exactly, the Rocky montage. But the framework argues that execution should never, ever depend on fleeting emotional highs. Instead, it introduces something called the execution pyramid, and this organizes human action in a rigorously logical way.
The execution pyramid. Let's unpack this, because if this is the foundation of our construction site, we need to know how it's poured.
Well, the core tenet is that action without vision is just random activity, and vision without action is merely imagination. The pyramid is how you connect them.
So it starts at the very top, at the highest, most abstract level of human thought, right? And then it cascades all the way down to what a person is doing right this very second.
Right. It flows from identity down to purpose, then vision, then goals, then projects, then tasks, and finally, daily actions.
Identity, purpose, vision, goals, projects, tasks, actions. That is quite the flow.
It is. And what's fascinating here is the fundamental rule of this pyramid. The non-negotiable mechanism that makes it work is that before you begin any task, you must ask yourself, why am I doing this?
And you have to have a good answer, I'm guessing?
You have to be able to answer it by tracing that specific daily action all the way back up the pyramid. So for example, I am sending this email, which is the action, to secure this meeting, the task, to finalize the budget, the project,
Right.
to launch the business, the goal, to achieve financial independence, the vision, to provide security for my family, the purpose, because I am a protector and provider, which is the identity.
Oh, wow. That is, I'm trying to wrap my head around the daily reality of that. That is a brutal filter.
It's meant to be. If you cannot trace the action back up that chain, The text insists the task should be seriously reconsidered.
But wait, if the answer to why am I doing this is just, because it's in my inbox or because it feels urgent, but it doesn't actually connect to the larger vision, the framework implies we just shouldn't do it. Doesn't that risk paralyzing people who just have normal, everyday admin stuff to manage?
I get that.
Yeah.
It might seem paralyzing at first, but it is actually the ultimate form of liberation. I mean, the paralysis people feel isn't usually from doing too little.
It's from doing too much.
Exactly. It's from doing too much of the wrong thing. We suffer from operational bloat. By forcing every action to justify its existence against your identity and purpose, you systematically eliminate the busy work that drains your energy but produces zero meaning.
It forces a confrontation with reality. Like, are you busy or are you executing?
Exactly.
And that distinction, busy versus executing, it leads perfectly into what honestly blew my mind in this material. To make this pyramid practical, the framework introduces a radical structural shift. It says that goals just disappear.
They vanish entirely from the execution level.
Like, instead of managing goals, it says life must be managed as a portfolio of projects. The text refers to this as the Life Project Management System, or LPMS.
Like the LPMS.
And if I'm understanding this, it's exactly like a financial portfolio. Like, if I'm investing for retirement, I'm not taking every single dollar I own and dumping it into one highly volatile tech stock. I diversify.
You'd be crazy not to.
Exactly. I build a portfolio of assets. And this system argues that you cannot treat your entire life as one giant, overwhelming, amorphous project. You have multiple projects running concurrently across different domains.
Right, you have health projects, career projects, relationship projects, learning projects.
So, okay, let's unpack this. What is the functional difference between a goal and a project? Because, I mean, we use those words interchangeably in everyday conversation all the time.
We do confuse them constantly. And that confusion is actually the source of massive anxiety. The framework clarifies this brilliantly by separating outcome from effort. A goal is an outcome. It is a state of being you wish to achieve.
Yeah.
So, become healthy is a goal. Achieve financial independence is a goal. Write a novel is a goal. A project, on the other hand, describes the temporal, bounded work required to move toward that outcome.
Okay, so the goal is the destination and the project is the vehicle.
Exactly. So, for the goal of becoming healthy, you can't wake up on a Tuesday and just do health.
Right, you can't put health on your to-do list.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
But you can execute a project called Complete a 12-week Hypertrophy Exercise Program, or a project called Overhaul Pantry and Establish Weekly Meal Prep.
I see.
Projects make goals executable because they have defined start and end dates and clear parameters. You cannot execute a goal. You can only execute a project.
That genuinely takes so much pressure off. I can't wake up and do a thriving marriage today, but I can execute a project called Plan and execute a weekly screen-free date night for the next 3 months.
That's a perfect example.
And inside those projects, the system breaks the work down even further into milestones and tasks.
Let's unpack the distinction here too, because, again, it challenges how most of us write our to-do lists.
This is where the engineering mindset really takes over. Tasks are the smallest executable actions. They are the atomic units of work. They have to be clear, specific, bounded by time, and measurable.
Like, call the mentor at 2 p.m.
Yes. Or read chapter 4 of the textbook. Walk on the treadmill for 30 minutes at a 4 incline. That is the actual labor. Milestones, however, are completely different. A milestone is not work.
Wait, really? A milestone isn't work?
No. A milestone is simply the evidence that meaningful progress has been achieved.
Ah, okay, so putting write the first draft on my daily to-do list is a structural error.
A massive one. First draft complete is a milestone. It is a flag in the ground. When you put a milestone on a daily task list, your brain looks at it, calculates the immense cognitive load required to achieve it, panics, and usually decides to scroll social media instead.
Guilty as charged. The tasks are, write 500 words on Tuesday morning or outline chapter 3 on Wednesday. When you complete enough of those specific low-friction tasks, you inevitably hit the milestone.
So this framework forces a psychological shift. You stop asking, how do I finish this massive thing? And you train your brain to only ask, what is the very next physical action?
Exactly. Progress accelerates when ambiguity is removed.
Okay, but practically speaking, let me push back a little here. Let's say someone listens to this deep dive, they get totally inspired, and they build this beautiful life project dashboard.
Okay.
They have their health portfolio, their career portfolio, they have all their milestones mapped out, the tasks are perfectly written, but they still wake up on a Thursday feeling completely, utterly overwhelmed by the sheer volume of it all.
Right.
The dashboard becomes just another source of anxiety. Why does that happen if the system is so logically sound?
If we dig deeper into the material, it actually anticipates exactly this failure point. It points directly to an imbalance in what it calls the 3 levels of work.
The 3 levels of work. Okay, break those down for me.
These are strategic, tactical, and operational. Strategic work asks the question, what should I build? That's your high-level vision. It's selecting which major projects go into your portfolio, deciding what matters over the next 5 years.
Okay, making the blueprint.
Right. Then, tactical work asks, how will I build it? That's the project planning phase. Coordinating resources, breaking projects into milestones, sequencing the tasks, setting timelines.
Got it.
Finally, operational work asks, what do I do today? That's the execution phase. Completing the tasks, answering the emails, doing the daily labor. Overwhelm happens when an individual spends all day, every day, entirely trapped in the operational zone.
Just drowning in the daily to-do list, like swinging the hammer without ever looking at the blueprint.
Precisely. You spend 10 hours answering emails, putting out fires, checking off minor tasks, running errands. You feel exhausted, which you mistake for being productive.
Ouch. Yeah, that hits close to home.
But because you haven't stepped back to spend any time on the strategic or tactical levels, you are just running on a treadmill. You're busy, but you aren't moving the needle on the projects that actually advance your life.
So a functional execution system requires intentionally allocating time to all 3 levels.
Yes, you have to schedule time to be the architect, time to be the project manager, and time to be the bricklayer. If you only play the role of the bricklayer, you will eventually build a wall right in front of yourself.
Wow. Which means we need a mechanism to manage those roles daily. We've established how to structure the portfolio, but having a perfectly structured portfolio is useless if you don't have a reliable engine to process it.
Absolutely.
The material makes a fascinating comparison here. It points out that our computers and smartphones don't just execute their code once a month. They don't have an annual New Year's resolution where they decide to run efficiently.
Right, they run a background operating system continuously.
Exactly. And it argues our lives need to run the exact same way.
This brings us to the daily operating system. The core philosophy here is a stark reminder of our mortality and our agency. The text states, your life is not built in years. It is built in days.
That's powerful.
The year is just a concept. The day is the only arena where you actually exist and have power. If you can design just one day well and repeat the architecture of that day consistently, you gradually, inevitably design an extraordinary life. The day is essentially a miniature life.
A miniature life.
Yeah.
That framing alone changes how I view my Tuesday, you know. And to manage this miniature life, the framework maps out a daily operating cycle. Wake, connect, plan, execute, reflect, recover, sleep.
It sounds simple on the surface.
It does, but then it introduces the daily life engine, which synchronizes 9 distinct dimensions of daily living. And here's where it gets really interesting, because the very first step, the morning activation, is so countercultural.
It really is.
The very first question you are supposed to ask when you wake up is not what's on my to-do list. It's not how many unread emails do I have. The very first question is, who am I becoming today?
That is the practice of identity alignment. And the sequencing is critical here. If you wake up and immediately look at your phone, you are initializing your brain in a state of reaction.
Right, you're letting the inbox dictate your mood.
You are letting the demands, emergencies, and priorities of other people dictate your cognitive state. By pausing to ask, who am I becoming today? You initialize your mind proactively.
You're taking control.
Yes. You ask, what is my core purpose today? What challenges or difficult people might I encounter? And how do I choose right now to respond to them? You are actively deciding who you will be before the world has a chance to push you around. You're putting the architect in charge before the bricklayer starts sweating.
I can see how that sets an entirely different psychological tone, but I mean, eventually you do have to look at the work.
Of course.
And when it comes to planning the day's execution, the material introduces the rule of 3. You don't make a list of 20 things you hope to achieve. You pick 3.
Just 3.
One most important task, the single thing that creates the greatest impact or moves a major project forward. One relationship priority, a specific person who deserves your intentional, undivided attention today, and one personal growth priority, something you will intentionally learn, read, or do to improve your own capacity.
And the rule states that everything else on your schedule is entirely secondary to those three things. It's an exercise in ruthless prioritization.
Because the reality of modern life is that the inbox will never be empty, right?
Right, and the to-do list will never be finished. If your metric for a successful day is finishing everything, you will fail every single day.
Which is so demoralizing.
Exactly. The rule of three redefines success. If you only accomplish those three specific things, you advance the major project, you connected deeply with your spouse, and you read a chapter of a dense book. The framework argues that the day is a definitive success, regardless of what else fell through the cracks.
It prevents that incredibly common trap of finishing 30 minor administrative tasks, feeling incredibly busy, but realizing a week later that you didn't advance anything that truly matters to your long-term vision.
It's forcing you to differentiate between what is urgent and what is truly important.
But the system doesn't just leave you hanging after the execution phase. There is an evening integration protocol. And I have to say, looking through the material, this might be the most powerful part of the daily operating system.
It's definitely the glue that holds it all together.
At the end of the day, you don't just collapse into bed with Netflix playing in the background. You actively reflect. You ask, what went well today? What did I learn? Who did I help? And most importantly, you prepare for tomorrow.
The guiding principle here is that tomorrow doesn't begin when you wake up. Tomorrow begins the night before.
That preparation is key, right?
It's biologically and psychologically crucial. During the evening integration, you review tomorrow's calendar, you identify potential bottlenecks or conflicts, and you explicitly choose tomorrow's most important task before you go to sleep.
That makes so much sense.
It solves a massive problem: decision fatigue. When you wake up the next morning, your brain is fresh. If you have to spend the first hour of your day burning mental energy just trying to figure out where to start, you are wasting your highest quality cognitive fuel on administration.
So if the decision was already made the night before, you wake up, initialize your identity, and step immediately into execution.
Precisely.
It's like laying out your workout clothes at the foot of the bed, but you're doing it for your entire cognitive life.
That's a great way to think about it.
And to keep track of how well this engine is running, there's the daily success score. Now, usually, I hate the idea of grading my days. It sounds stressful.
It can be, if done wrong.
Right. But the way it's framed here is like a personal, completely judgment-free daily report card. You rate yourself 1 to 10, but crucially, you aren't rating how many tasks you ticked off. You rate yourself on holistic metrics.
Right. Identity alignment: did I act consistently with my values today? Gratitude: did I intentionally notice the good? Health: did I protect my physical energy?
It creates a vital daily feedback loop that is completely detached from, capitalist productivity metrics.
It shifts the definition of a good day from mere volume to holistic alignment. Imagine you look at your daily success score and you scored a 10 on focused execution at work, but a 2 on relationship intentionality, and a 2 on protecting your health.
That's a red flag.
A huge one. The system forces you to look at that data and recognize that this was not a successful day. It was an unsustainable one.
Yeah.
You might have gotten a lot done, but you were actively compromising the foundational architecture, your health, and your support system that you are relying on to build your future.
Okay, let's step into the messy reality of being human for a second. We can sit here and talk about designing the perfect day. You can have your rule of 3 locked in, you can do your morning activation, you can have your beautifully diversified portfolio of projects.
Everything looks perfect on paper.
Right, but what happens when the alarm goes off at 6 a.m., it's raining, you slept terribly, and you just don't feel like it? What happens when motivation completely drops off a cliff?
That is the ultimate test.
Because the framework makes a very aggressive stance here. It argues that execution should never depend on willpower.
It shouldn't, because willpower is not a character trait. It is a finite, highly unreliable biological resource.
So it actually runs out?
Yes, emotions fluctuate, circumstances shift unpredictably, fatigue sets in. If your execution system requires you to summon a high state of emotional motivation every single morning, your system will inevitably collapse the moment you get a bad night's sleep or face a stressful event.
Which brings us to the next layer of the material, the behavioral operating system. This is where we transition from relying on motivation to engineering behavior through systems.
Engineering behavior.
It sounds almost robotic or deterministic, but as I dug into it, it's actually deeply liberating. To understand it, the text redefines the word discipline, and it requires a total paradigm shift.
It really does.
We usually think of discipline as a form of self-punishment, right? It's white-knuckling it, it's forcing yourself against all your natural desires to do something you hate.
But the framework says discipline is not forcing yourself to act. Discipline is designing an environment where the right action becomes the easiest action.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, discipline is almost universally misunderstood as the opposite of freedom.
Right, we think having strict routines or engineered environments ties us down and robs us of spontaneity.
But the text proposes the exact inverse. True discipline is the foundational prerequisite for freedom.
Think about it across different domains. The more disciplined your financial habits are, saving, budgeting, investing, the more financial freedom you eventually have to make choices without panic.
Ah, I see.
The more disciplined your physical health routines are, the more physical freedom your body experiences as you age. You have the freedom to hike, to play with your children, to travel without physical limitation.
So discipline is simply the mechanism that aligns your daily impulsive actions with your long-term deepest desires. It removes the friction between who you are and who you want to be.
Exactly. And according to the material, that alignment has to start at the deepest level. It uses the phrase identity before habit. It argues that habits are the bridges between your current identity and your ultimate destiny.
There's a specific example that clarifies this in the text. It contrasts the statement, "I want to run," with the statement, "I am becoming someone who cares for my health."
That linguistic shift is everything. It changes the locus of control.
How so?
Well, if you wake up and say, "I want to run," but you feel tired, you are setting up a battle between two competing desires. The desire to run versus the desire to sleep. Usually, immediate comfort wins. You view running as a disparate, burdensome action.
Right.
But if your internal narrative is, "I am becoming someone who cares for my health," running is no longer an isolated obligation. It is simply the natural behavior of that type of person. You aren't forcing an action, you are confirming your identity. The behavior becomes an expression of who you already believe you are.
So if identity is the foundation, how do we actually construct the bridge? How do we build the habit?
The framework breaks down the neuroscience of the habit loop. Cue, decision, action, reward. And it adapts 4 practical laws to design these habits into our lives.
Make it visible, make it attractive, make it easy, make it rewarding. Let's make this incredibly concrete. How do we apply these 4 laws?
Making it visible is entirely about environment design. It's preloading your decisions into your physical space. If you want to eat healthier, the healthy food must be the first, most prominent thing you see when you open the refrigerator.
Put the apples front and center.
Right. The junk food shouldn't even be in the house, or at the very least, it should be hidden on a high shelf behind opaque containers. Making it easy means systematically reducing the friction required to start the action.
So if you want to work out at 6 a.m., your clothes are laid out, your shoes are by the door.
Your water bottle is filled in the fridge, and your keys are in your pocket. You don't have to make any decisions at 6 a.m. You just have to follow the breadcrumbs you left for yourself.
So you are basically tricking your lazy brain into doing the right thing because it's the path of least resistance.
Exactly. And conversely, if you want to break a bad habit, you invert the laws. You add friction.
If you want to stop checking your phone during deep work, you don't just put it face down on your desk. You put it in another room, turned off, inside a drawer. You make it invisible and you make it incredibly difficult to access.
Right. You want the bad habit to require so much physical effort that your conscious brain has time to intervene and say, wait, why am I walking into the other room to open a drawer just to look at Instagram?
Okay, I hear that, but I'm going to push back hard here because the material introduces this concept of the reverse habit loop. And practically speaking, let's say my bad habit is eating a massive sugary donut at 3 p.m. every day.
Okay, classic slump.
Right. If I just say, I'm going to stop eating sugar at 3 p.m. and I use environment design, I don't buy donuts, I don't go to the break room, why doesn't that work? In the heat of the moment at 3 p.m. when I am stressed and exhausted, a 10-minute walk or a glass of water does not give me the dopamine hit that a donut does.
That is a phenomenal question.
How does the system account for that immense biological friction?
It gets to the heart of why most diets and resolutions fail. You cannot simply extinguish a well-established habit by suppressing it. Every habit, especially a destructive one, exists because it successfully serves a physiological or psychological need.
So the habit is doing a job.
Exactly. If you are eating that sugary donut at 3 p.m. every single day, your brain and body are seeking something. Maybe it is a literal spike in blood glucose because you skipped lunch. But more likely, it is a psychological need. It's a break from a highly stressful spreadsheet. It's a moment of comfort. It's an excuse for social interaction in the break room.
So the donut is just the delivery mechanism for the actual need.
Precisely. If you use pure willpower to suppress the action, I will not eat the donut, the underlying need remains completely unmet. The stress, the need for a break, the need for connection.
And your willpower just gives out.
It will eventually fatigue, usually within a few days, and you will relapse. The reverse habit loop teaches you to play detective. You identify the cue. It's 3 p.m., I feel stressed. You diagnose the underlying need. I don't actually need sugar. I need a mental reset and a change of scenery.
Then you replace it.
Yes. You replace the action with something that addresses the root need, but with a better ingredient. Instead of the sugar, you go for a 10-minute walk outside, perhaps calling a friend. You still get the break from the spreadsheet. You still get a dopamine shift from movement and connection, but you've replaced the destructive routine with a constructive one. You satisfy the craving, but you change the mechanism.
You have to satisfy the craving with a better ingredient. That is so practical.
Yeah.
And for building new positive routines, there is this concept of habit stacking, which honestly feels like a cheat code for human behavior.
It really is.
You connect a brand new fragile habit to a deeply entrenched existing habit, the classic example in the text. After I brush my teeth, I will read 1 page of a book.
It relies on the concept of synaptic pruning in the brain. Your brain already has a dense, highly efficient neural pathway for brushing your teeth. It happens automatically. You don't need motivation to do it. Habit stacking simply piggybacks the new, decided behavior onto that established neural highway. The existing habit becomes the undeniable cue for the new habit.
And the brilliance is in the scale. You aren't saying, I will read for an hour. You're saying, I will read 1 page. It's so small, you can't fail.
Exactly.
But over time, that stack of small habits, brush teeth, read 1 page, drink 1 glass of water, stretch for 1 minute, it compounds. The stack becomes a daily routine, the routine becomes a lifestyle, and as the framework says, the lifestyle shapes your character.
You never underestimate the power of these tiny stacked actions because compounding interest doesn't just apply to money, it applies to human behavior.
But let's look at the raw materials of all this behavior. Even with flawless habits, even if you have the best environment design in the world and you've stacked all your routines beautifully, we are still biological creatures.
We have limits.
To fuel this behavioral engine, we need to manage our resources. And the framework points out a massive structural mistake that almost all modern productivity systems make. Most people only manage their time.
Time management, as a standalone philosophy, is vastly incomplete. Time is the only truly egalitarian resource in the universe. We all possess exactly 24 hours in a day. Yet we observe that some individuals build extraordinary, impactful, deeply fulfilling lives, while others feel constantly overwhelmed, exhausted, and perpetually behind.
So what does this all mean for the listener who is just constantly exhausted? The person who has every 15-minute block of their day perfectly color-coded on a calendar, they are technically managing their time flawlessly, but they drag themselves from meeting to meeting like a zombie.
It means they are managing an external, finite resource time while completely neglecting their internal, renewable resource energy. Time can only be allocated. Once an hour is gone, it is gone forever. But energy is entirely different. Energy can be increased, it can be protected, or it can be entirely depleted.
Attention is the bridge, right?
Yes. Attention is the vital bridge between the two. The text states this incredibly powerfully. Where attention goes, life follows. You can allocate 2 hours of time on your perfect color-coded calendar to write a strategic proposal. But if your internal energy is depleted because you haven't slept, and your attention is fractured by Slack notifications and social media, those 2 hours of allocated time are functionally useless. You are physically present, but cognitively absent.
This brings in the concept of the 3 clocks of human life, which is a brilliant way to visualize this tension. A highly productive, aligned life manages all 3 clocks simultaneously.
Let's run through them.
First, there's the chronological clock, the actual objective hours in a day, the external reality. Then the biological clock, your natural internal energy rhythms, your circadian rhythm. When do I naturally perform at my best? And finally, the psychological clock, your capacity for presence and attention. Am I truly focused on what I am doing right now?
When those 3 clocks are misaligned, we experience profound friction and suffering. Consider the classic corporate misalignment, trying to do deep, highly creative, strategic work at 4:30 p.m.
Oh, that sounds miserable.
Chronologically, you have the time, there's an open block on your calendar, but biologically, your energy is at its lowest point in the circadian trough. And psychologically, your attention is entirely frayed from 8 hours of context switching and answering emails. You are fighting your own biology.
So a well-designed execution system schedules the most vital, cognitively demanding work when the biological energy is highest and the psychological attention is sharpest, which is usually in the morning for most people.
Exactly.
To really understand that biological capacity, the framework breaks down the energy pyramid into 4 interdependent layers: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And it presents it as a strict hierarchy. The physical layer supports the mental supports the emotional supports the spiritual.
The sequencing is critical. You cannot skip a layer.
I was trying to visualize this, and I keep coming back to a smartphone analogy. Your physical energy, your sleep, nutrition, movement is the actual lithium-ion battery in the phone. Your mental, emotional, and spiritual energies, your ability to solve complex problems, regulate your temper, connect with your purpose, those are the amazing high-powered apps running on the software.
I love that analogy.
Right. It doesn't matter if you have the most beautiful, purpose-driven software in the world. If the physical hardware, the literal battery, is dead, the phone will not turn on. The apps cannot run.
I think that is an exceptionally precise analogy. If you were sleeping 4 hours a night, surviving on caffeine and heavily processed sugar, and you haven't moved your body in weeks, your physical baseline, your lithium battery, is compromised.
And then everything else suffers.
Because the physical is compromised, you will not have the mental clarity to focus on complex problems. Because your mental bandwidth is exhausted, you will lose your emotional stability. You will snap at your spouse or panic over a minor setback at work. And because you are emotionally volatile, you will feel entirely disconnected from any higher spiritual purpose or meaning. The layers continuously dictate the capacity of the layers above them. You cannot optimize your mind or your soul while actively neglecting your biology.
And this leads directly to a truly bold claim in the material, something that flies in the face of the entire modern hustle culture narrative. We are taught that if you are resting, you're falling behind. But the framework states, rest is not the opposite of productivity. Recovery makes future productivity possible.
We have a deeply toxic relationship with rest. We often view recovery, which includes sleep, silence, time in nature, unstructured play, deep connection with family, as a luxury. Or worse, we view it as a sign of weakness, as downtime, a necessary evil we only surrender to when we physically cannot work any longer.
Which is just a recipe for disaster.
The human operating system completely rejects that paradigm.
Yeah.
Recovery is not the absence of work. It is active, deliberate maintenance of the human machine. It is a highly productive act. If you do not intentionally schedule deliberate recovery, your body and your mind will eventually force you to recover through burnout, illness, clinical depression, or complete exhaustion.
And that forced involuntary recovery will be far less efficient, far more painful, and massively more disruptive than scheduled maintenance. That's the ultimate truth. You either schedule the maintenance or the machine breaks down and schedules it for you. We've talked about protecting our physical battery, managing our time, and engineering our habits, but having a fully charged battery is completely useless if you plug it into a broken machine that just spins in circles.
Right, where is it all going?
Where is all this energy actually going? What are we building? The framework spends an entire section completely redefining the word productivity.
This is perhaps the most vital paradigm shift in the entire text. Most conventional systems, and certainly modern corporate culture, define productivity as a measure of volume and velocity. Doing more things faster, checking off more boxes, reaching inbox zero.
It's a factory floor metric applied to knowledge work.
But the text argues forcefully that productivity is not activity. Productivity is the intentional creation of meaningful value.
The value creation engine. It's not about how many emails you sent today. It's about what actual value you brought into the world. And there is a fascinating equation for this in the text. Productivity equals purpose multiplied by focus, multiplied by energy, multiplied by execution.
Purpose times focus times energy times execution equals meaningful productivity.
And because it's a multiplication formula, if any single component is zero, the entire outcome is mathematically zero.
The multiplier effect is what makes the equation so devastatingly accurate. Let's run the variables. If you have incredible laser-like focus, boundless high energy and flawless disciplined execution, but your purpose is zero, what are you doing?
You're just busy.
You are highly efficient at accomplishing things that absolutely do not matter. Conversely, if you have immense, noble purpose, but zero focus and zero ability to execute, you just have a very beautiful daydream. You need all four elements firing simultaneously to move from activity to actual value creation.
To help us diagnose where we're spending our time and our variables, the framework categorizes all work into 4 levels.
This is very helpful for triage.
Level 1 is creation and innovation designing, problem solving, building something new, deep strategic thinking. This is the highest value work a human can do. Level 2 is growth and learning, research, planning, reading, improving your skills. This has massive long-term compounding value.
Both very important.
Level 3 is maintenance and administration, answering routine emails, attending status update meetings, doing the necessary support tasks to keep life running. And level 4 is distraction, mindless scrolling on social media, unnecessary interruptions, gossip, things that offer zero lasting value and actively drain your energy.
And the stated goal of the system is to live as much as possible in levels 1 and 2, to bash and minimize level 3, and to ruthlessly eliminate level 4.
And the gatekeeper that determines which level you occupy is focus. Focus is the only mechanism that protects your attention from the gravitational pull of level 3 administration and level 4 distraction. The material introduces focus filters to help protect that boundary. Before you begin any task, you are instructed to pause and ask a series of diagnostic questions. Does this action support my core purpose? Does this create meaningful value? Is now the right biological time to do this?
And then there's the ultimate focus filter.
Yes, my absolute favorite focus filter, the one that stopped me in my tracks. Will this matter 1 year from now? That question is a gut punch to modern anxiety.
It really puts things in perspective.
When you're sitting at your desk, agonizing over the phrasing of a minor Slack message, or stressing about a bureaucratic internal memo, or fuming over a minor slight, you ask, will this specific thing matter in a year? If the answer is no, and 95% of the time it is no, you either delegate it, delay it, or just eliminate it entirely. You have to aggressively protect your attention for the work that does matter in a year. And when you successfully protect that attention, the framework highlights that you can unlock flow state.
Flow. First categorized by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Flow is identified in the text as one of humanity's greatest, most fulfilling productive states. It's that transcendent feeling of being completely immersed in an activity where your sense of self vanishes and time seems to distort.
It's incredible when you hit it.
But flow is fragile. It doesn't happen by accident. It requires specific engineered conditions. The challenge of the task must perfectly match your skill level too hard and you feel anxiety too easy and you feel boredom. The goal must be crystal clear. You need immediate feedback. And crucially, your attention must be completely and utterly uninterrupted. You cannot enter flow if your phone is buzzing with notifications every 4 minutes.
Flow is the ultimate expression of the value creation engine running perfectly. But what I truly appreciate about this section is that it refuses to limit productivity to just capitalism or your career. It breaks productivity out into 5 dimensions.
Yes, it broadens the scope significantly.
There is personal productivity, managing your physical health and building your character. Professional productivity, creating meaningful work in your career. Relational productivity, investing in people, building trust, and nurturing love. Creative productivity, inventing, expressing, and solving. And purpose productivity, aligning all your daily effort with your ultimate life mission.
It radically broadens the definition of what constitutes a productive life. Under this framework, spending 2 completely uninterrupted hours deeply listening to your spouse or playing on the floor with your children without looking at your phone is highly productive relational work.
Going for a long, disconnected run in the woods is highly productive personal work.
It rescues us from the trap of viewing our economic output as the only metric of our value.
Which brings us to the capstone of this entire execution system. We can manage our portfolio of projects, we can engineer our habits, we can protect our energy, and we can seek to create value. But every single one of those actions ultimately requires a choice. The highest, most consequential level of the execution system is decision-making.
Because your life is the accumulated result of thousands of decisions.
The text states a sobering truth. Your life today, right now, is the accumulated compound result of thousands of decisions you made in the past.
This raises an important question, maybe the most important of the entire operating system. How do we consistently make choices without relying on fear, raw emotion, social pressure, or pure impulse? Often we treat decision-making as a mystical talent, something you're either naturally good at or bad at. But the text frames decision-making as an architecture.
It introduces the decision intelligence engine.
Yes, which is a systematic, repeatable way to process choices to ensure they align with your desired future.
It defines a decision in a very specific, weighty way. A decision is a conscious commitment to one path that fully accepts the opportunity costs of not choosing all the other paths. By choosing one future, you are actively, violently closing another. To make sure you are choosing the right future, the framework provides 6 decision filters for any major life choice.
These filters are designed to ensure total alignment before action is taken. Let's look at a major decision, like accepting a high-paying job offer that requires you to travel 50% of the time. You run it through the filters.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, identity. Does taking this job reflect the person I want to become? Second, values. Does it honor my core principles, or am I compromising them for money? Third, purpose. Does this role move me toward my ultimate life mission? Fourth, relationships. How does this constant travel affect my spouse and my children? Fifth, long-term impact. Will the money or title matter 5 years from now compared to the time lost? And sixth, contribution. Does taking this job allow me to improve someone else's life?
Only when a decision successfully passes through all these filters should you commit your energy to it.
Exactly. It takes the chaotic emotion out of the driver's seat and puts structural purpose there instead.
And alongside these filters is what the text calls the priority architecture. It divides the demands on your life into essential, important, and optional priorities. I was trying to visualize this, and instead of a lifeboat analogy, I think it's exactly like the CPU bandwidth on your computer.
Well, that's a modern take on it.
If you open a web browser and you open 50 tabs at the same time, and you tell the computer that every single tab is essential and must run at full speed, what happens? The cooling fan screams, the memory maxes out, the system freezes, and eventually it crashes entirely. You accomplish nothing.
Right, you have to close some tabs.
Sometimes saying no to a genuinely good, important opportunity is just closing tabs so the essential tabs can actually load. Saying no is how you prevent a system crash.
That is a brilliant application of the opportunity filter. Will saying yes to this good thing consume the bandwidth I need for my great thing? To help us understand how our capacity to filter these choices evolves, the text outlines 7 levels of decision-making. This is a roadmap of human maturity. It traces our evolution in how we choose.
I really want to spend time on these 7 levels because it's like holding up a mirror to your own behavior. Let's walk a hypothetical decision through this evolution. Let's say someone cuts you off in traffic. How does someone at level 1, the reactive level, handle that?
Level 1 is pure impulse. It is driven entirely by immediate emotion, fear, or biological craving. The person who cuts you off triggers a threat response. The level 1 decision is to immediately lay on the horn, scream, and aggressively tailgate them. There is zero space between the stimulus and the response. It is pure animal reaction.
Okay, then we move to level 2, the habitual level.
Level 2 asks, what do I usually do? The brain wants to save energy, so it defaults to past behavior. The person cuts you off. You don't scream, but you reflexively mutter a specific curse word and grip the steering wheel tighter, because that is your entrenched neural pathway for stress in the car. It's not a conscious choice, it's a script playing out.
Then we step up to level 3, the rational level. And I think this is where a lot of modern, educated people think they have reached the pinnacle.
Yes, level 3 is where we start using facts, data, and logic. You are cut off in traffic. The level 3 decision maker pauses, analyzes the physics of the situation, recognizes that tailgating increases the probability of an accident by X%, calculates the potential cost of higher insurance premiums, and consciously decides to back off to maintain a safe stopping distance. It is highly logical.
But it's still incomplete because then we move to level 4, the strategic level.
Level 4 expands the timeline. It looks past the immediate logic and asks about the long-term goal. The level 4 decision maker says, my goal today is to arrive at my massive presentation feeling calm, collected, and ready to perform. If I engage with this aggressive driver, my cortisol levels will spike and I will ruin my state of mind for the next 2 hours. The decision to let it go is driven by a larger strategic objective.
Then we elevate to level 5, the relational level.
Level 5 shifts the focus from the self to the community. It considers the impact on others. The level 5 decision maker looks in the rearview mirror, sees their children sitting in the back seat, and thinks, how I respond to this conflict is actively teaching my children how to handle stress and anger. I choose to model patience and grace, not just for my safety, but for their development.
That is a massive shift in perspective, and it leads to level 6, the purpose-centered level.
Level 6 aligns the decision with your ultimate mission and identity. The level 6 decision maker observes the aggressive driver and thinks, my core identity is to be a source of peace and stability in a chaotic world. Engaging in road rage actively violates who I have decided to be. The choice is anchored in deep existential alignment.
And finally, the absolute pinnacle of the architecture, level 7, wisdom-centered decision-making. This level asks, what is the wisest decision I can make with what I know today? And the text makes a profound, somewhat uncomfortable point here about how we acquire this wisdom. It states that experience alone does not create wisdom. People repeat the exact same destructive mistakes, same bad relationships, the same financial errors for 20 years, and they call it experience. The text says that only reflected experience creates wisdom.
That distinction is the key to the entire engine. Wisdom is not a function of age. It's a function of reflection. To reach level 7, you must create a continuous, deliberate loop of learning. Every decision you make, whether it leads to a massive success or a humiliating failure, must be fed back into the system through reflection. You analyze the outcome, you identify the variables you missed, and you update your internal models. This continuously calibrates the judgment of the engine for the next decision. The goal of level 7 is not to be perfectly certain every single time. Life is far too complex, chaotic, and unpredictable for absolute certainty. The goal is to be consistently wise, to navigate the fog of reality with an internal compass that always points true north.
Okay, let's pull all of this incredible material together. We have gone on an absolutely massive journey through the human operating system today. We started with the harsh realization that a beautiful vision is meaningless without execution. We learned how to dismantle overwhelming goals and transform them into a diversified portfolio of executable projects. We installed a daily operating system to run those projects, asking ourselves who we are becoming before we even check our email. We engineered our behavior with the 4 laws of habits and the reverse habit loop, completely removing our reliance on the myth of willpower. We learned how to fiercely protect our biological energy and our psychological attention. We redefined productivity, moving away from the treadmill of sheer volume and toward the intentional creation of meaningful value across all dimensions of our lives. And finally, we built a robust 7-level architecture for making wise, purpose-driven decisions.
It is a breathtakingly comprehensive architecture. What this section of the material ultimately does is move us from the realm of merely intending to do good things. It gives us the engineering tools to systematically build a life of profound purpose. It proves, mathematically and philosophically, that extraordinary lives are rarely built through a few extraordinary days. Rather, they are built through ordinary days, lived extraordinarily well.
Ordinary days lived extraordinarily well. I love that framing. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought inspired directly by the architecture of this text. The material states, your future is rarely determined by one dramatic, cinematic decision. Rather, it is shaped by thousands of tiny, invisible choices made over time. So as you go about the rest of your day today, I want you to examine just one small, seemingly insignificant choice you make. Maybe it's hitting the snooze button tomorrow morning. Maybe it's the exact food you choose to eat for lunch. Maybe it's how you speak to a colleague when you are feeling stressed. Or whether you choose to pick up a book or scroll mindlessly on your phone for 20 minutes. Look closely at that one tiny atomic decision and ask yourself, which future is this tiny decision building?
Because every single action is a brick. You are always, inevitably, building something. The only question that remains is whether you are building it on purpose.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. We hope this exploration gives you the structural tools to finally start building your blueprint into a reality. Stay curious, stay intentional, protect your energy, and we will see you next time.